Exactly.
Yeah, no, the Spurs, this is it for them. Maybe that's Pop's last thing is he gives him their next Tim Duncan as he heads out the door.
Can you
He's like,
imagine that?
I tanked for you guys. I'm ready to go. And good luck developing the next franchise anchor for the next 20 years.
Yep.
Well, you wrote this piece, Shaun, that I think is interesting, where you wrote the case for your 4 teams who missed the playoffs in 2022 to make it in 2023.
Yep.
Of the 4, how would you rank them in terms of most likely to get back and least likely?
Oh, refresh my memory. Who were the 4 now?
So you've got the Blazers.
Okay.
You've got the Knicks.
Right.
You've got the Cavs.
And the Clippers, of course.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we don't even talk about the Clippers. Of course,
Clippers are 1.
I think the Clippers are going to, if you look at the 8 teams in the West that made the playoffs last year, I think 1 is definitely not going to make it.
Yeah.
And I think the Clippers take that spot. Now the question is, do the Blazers take the Pelican spot? The Pelicans, now they have Zion. So you could say, well, they're definitely going to be there. And if they're not going to take the Pelican spot, who are they going to take? Minnesota spot? Well, they've got Gobert,
Like, you can make the case Minnesota has the best record in the West. Like, just with what they can compile in the regular season, like, you can make the case that Gobert, Anthony Edwards, Philippe, and Cat.
Yeah, and so whose spot is Portland going to take? They're going to take, what, the Grizzlies, Nuggets, Warriors, the Suns? I mean, come on now. So to answer your question, it's going to be, look, I like what they did this summer. I didn't love what they did this summer, but I like it. They gave Damian Lillard some help. Okay, all right. I mean, I like Gary Payton and
healthy Nurkic is back in the fold.
Jeremy Grant,
Anthony Simons took the lead last year.
They're nice. Again, I think they're right there if somebody slips up. But to rank them, the Clippers, of course, runaway number 1. The Knicks. Again, if you look at, I always judge about it, the 8 teams that made the playoffs last year, who is the most vulnerable of missing the playoffs. I mean, again, that's very, very difficult. I mean, you could say those 8 teams will probably run it back again. But again, if any of them slip, maybe it's Chicago, maybe a little vulnerable. The Atlanta Hawks, maybe doesn't really truly work out the first year with DeJounte. I mean, they could be right there. It's going to be difficult for 3 of those 4. Very difficult for 3 of those 4. Not truly difficult. I just think they're right there. They're going to be in a play-in situation. And if somebody slips up, I think they're going to be right there to, get maybe the 7th or the 8th spot, but things will have to work in their favor.
This is why the play-in is such a win for the NBA, where I think we're going to see some of these just bloodbath situations. I mean, the Cavs and the Hawks last year was just must-see television because the Cavs, who were this awesome story, it's in Cleveland. The Hawks are like, Trae Young is just a villain wherever he goes and is just embracing this kind of thing, where I went into that one as a Hawks guy. I was like, there's no chance the Hawks lose this game. There's no way Trae's going down to Darius Garland. This is not happening. He's not losing a 1-game playoff to Darius Garland. He's going to take this personally, and they're not going to do this. That being said, we don't have to relitigate what happened in the Miami series and what Trae had to deal with on that front. But I just look at it as like, you're right about Portland, where they're sitting right there saying somebody slips up. But I do think we are now we've gone so far the other way on Dame that it's ridiculous the way we've talked about Dame now. Just because he was injured this past year, he finally has this abdominal surgery that he's been putting off for years. But like, Damian Lillard has raised that ceiling in Portland so high since he has entered his prime that like, now that we're at the point where we're like, are we sure they're a playoff team? I'm like, I think I would, if Dame plays 80 games, 78 games, I don't see how they're at the very least not in that 7 to 10 range. I just don't see how Damian Lillard, still being in his prime, is not able to carry this team to that point. And then we're looking at amazing situation. Is it Dame versus LeBron in a play-in situation? Is it Dame versus, I don't know, Zion Williamson or his old friend CJ McCollum in a play-in situation? Like, that's awesome for the league. So I'm very, very curious to see what the Blazers look like.
But think of the playoff 8 last year in the West. Who's vulnerable?
Memphis is vulnerable.
Who's this?
Memphis, I think, is vulnerable.
Oh,
Jaren Jackson out till January. Ja has never played 82 games. I think there's a quick scenario where like injuries could just destroy this team very quickly.
They go from being second last year, best record in the West, and within a couple games of Phoenix.
Yep.
And playing tough in the playoffs to being maybe in a play-in situation. Ooh, that would be a steep fall.
This is not a popular one. Memphis fans get very tense when I put this out there. Like I would have sold it like the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. Memphis should have been at the forefront, where like I am doing everything I can to win a title with Ja before he falls weird and this all goes awry, because the way he's falling, he gets injured in that series against the Warriors. Jaren Jackson, if you look at the games played through 4 years, like it sucks because he made that leap in the playoffs and I love watching him play. And if you could turn injuries off, I'm all in on this Memphis team. Like, I love the way they play. I love that crowd. I love that city. But I just don't see a scenario where they're making it 120 games with that core. Like
you said something very interesting. You said you thought Memphis should be all in. You know who else I thought should have been an all in? Is New Orleans. First of all,
I agree.
You've got a ton of number one picks that you own yourself, and from the Lakers and the Anthony Davis trade, and from the Bucks and the Drew Holiday trade. And you've got some young talent on that team. You don't mean to tell me you could have sent 5 unprotected number one picks to Brooklyn plus
Brandon Ingram.
Well, you probably could have held on to him.
I don't know. You're probably Brooklyn would have required at least somebody who can win now, and you're not giving up. They probably don't want McCollum in this situation. And I think McCollum, Kevin, and Zion, that is a really, really strong 3-man core in the West.
Yeah, that's good. And you've got some of the young talent coming up. I mean, I thought New Orleans probably, because the only reason why I said New Orleans is because I just thought with all that draft capital they're sitting on, that they could at least satisfy that part of the deal with multiple unprotected number one picks that would not hurt the team because they've got a ton. And you have Zion and Kevin Durant, plus maybe CJ or Brandon Ingram. And